Have you ever been walking somewhere and it starts bucketing rain? Today we're going to chat about the rainy day funds, why we need them, how much to have, and where to keep them. Okay, well, let's go. Come on, it's coffee time. Let's dive right into this topic as we've got a bit to unpack together. Umbrellas, nest eggs, savings, backup funds, emergency money, whatever you want to call it. It is something we all need to avoid jumping into, things like credit cards, quick cash loans, and all those other nasty things that just put us behind. I'm going to confess something. Until more recent years, I was not very good at saving money. Luckily, I was never in dire straits enough to go silly with credit cards or loans, but if an emergency came up, it was struggle street all the way. Something like a speeding fine, okay, it was a red light ticket, went on a payment plan and hung over my head for months. An urgent car repair bill had terrible timing, as did everything else. There was never a good time for anything unexpected. We are often faced with bad situations arising at the time we say to ourselves, why did this happen now? Why didn't it happen next month? Now? Really? Now? But when unprepared, when is a good time? So speaking of rainy day funds, it's very common just to think of this in our personal finances. Keeping a roof over our head, putting food on the table. This is where our mind goes because these are the most important things to our basic living needs. Have you ever thought about rainy day funds in your business? If you run your business and you pay yourself from your business, you may be thinking, well, I just need personal savings for the roof and the food, don't I? The answer is yes, but it's also no at the same time. Let's toss this idea around for a second. If you only have personal savings, an emergency fund for the immediate urgent life expenses, this is certainly a great position to be in. So why wouldn't you have this for your business as well? Let's paint a couple of scenarios. My first example, Sally. Sally's core business comes from online workshops teaching other business owners how to use social media in their business. Sally conducts these workshops every week and her students pay her around about a month in advance for the tickets to the workshops. Sadly, Sally got really sick and had to take some time off, which meant that she couldn't hold the workshops for around about 6 weeks for her students. Sally was able to communicate to her students about her situation, and 50% of them were happy to wait for her return and the other 50% wanted a refund. Because Sally's business was always in a moment-to-moment cash flow position, meaning she paid herself from the ticket sales as they were received, Sally needed to come up with the money to complete the refunds to the students that wanted them at the time. Sally only has a small amount of personal rainy day savings and no emergency funds in her business. Let's look at another example. Matthew is a graphic designer and he has a steady stream of clients that use his services for branding, advertising, and other design needs. His biggest revenue comes from advertising work. Matthew has about 6 months of work lined up and he gets an urgent call to tend to his parents, and he's the only one that can help. Because Matthew can work from anywhere with an internet connection, you would think he'd be okay. The first few days of looking after his parents were more time-consuming than Matthew had expected, and this put him behind. As most of the work was in advertising with tight deadlines, Matthew couldn't meet the needs and had to outsource the work to another contractor to complete some of the work for him. And that contractor needed to be paid quickly because the job was so urgent. Even though Matthew managed to get the work completed for the client, they weren't happy with the result. Because Matthew struggled to get the right help at the last minute and the work ended up being substandard. The client rejected the work and needed a refund and threatened to charge Matthew for their campaign losses due to the issues. Again, Matthew had a tight cash flow and no emergency funds in his business. Add this to the stress and pressure of needing to look after his parents. You can imagine this all coming at once. Of course, both Sally and Matthew are complete fictional characters for the purpose of this episode, and sometimes we might take comfort in the road of, well, that's not my kind of business, and that wouldn't happen to me kind of attitude. But is that the right way to think? Again, we come back to there's never a good time, and we need to expect the unexpected. This is why I want you to consider having emergency funds for both business and personal. Cover all the bases and take comfort in the position of knowing if something was to happen, the stress and pressure of a situation is far less when we are financially covered. A minimum of 3 months of expenses, 6 months if you can, including if you pay yourself a wage, needs to be on the ready. I highly recommend having it somewhere separate to your everyday funds. Either another bank account or even another banking institution if you need it really tucked away. A question I get a lot with this topic is what percentage should I budget to save these funds? And I prefer to work this out in numbers, looking across the expenses in your business and make a plan to save the funds as quick as possible. It comes down to the amount of rainy day funds you need in your business and over what period of time you can save that up. If the unthinkable happens and you need to use some emergency funds, I would also be planning to top those funds back up later, in case it's needed again in the future. And the best part about your own emergency funds, when you need to use it, you don't have to worry about paying interest. You don't have to be concerned about missing payments, because it's already your money. I hope this episode has got you thinking about having a backup of funds in your business as well as a personal emergency funds, if you don't already have that set up. In a future episode, I'm sure I'll be bringing more reasons for savings in your business, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and until next time, happy biz beans to you.